My name is Stephanie Miller. I work with Economic Development South. Economic Development South is a multi-municipal community and economic development nonprofit. We're working collectively and multi-municipally on the Route 51 corridor, basically from the Liberty Tunnels to the Elizabeth Bridge. And we're working also on Brownsville Road from about 18th Street, Arlington Avenue through the Brownsville Road corridor at Route 51. And we're working on several layers of initiatives in economic development. We have 5 business lines. One of them is small business development, where we're looking to sort of support all the small businesses in the community.
So if I'm a business in the 51 corridor, I could come to you and you would help me with all sorts of things, right? Like what specific things would you help a small business with in that corridor?
I think in the economic development world, we see health of small businesses as being vital to sort of our overall development. So we sort of serve as the entry point for businesses. So if a business has a question about anything, I need help growing, I need help planning a succession plan, I can't figure out how to get my capital right, I need help thinking through this, my facade, I need a new facade, I need a new signage. We sort of serve as the triage point for small businesses. If small businesses have questions, we sort of take it in, we'll usually meet with the business, and then we'll sort of serve as the connector to the resources in the region.
Cool. And Tim, you do a similar thing, right?
So I am a program manager with Hilltop Alliance.
So you work with Aaron.
I do work with Aaron.
Friend of the hardware store,
Yes.
Aaron.
And so Hilltop Alliance as a whole is a community-based community development nonprofit in the South Pittsburgh Hilltop area. So we covered 11 city neighborhoods plus Mount Oliver Borough, basically everything on the hill behind Southside back to Brentwood, from Mount Washington over to Beck's Run. We do anything from sort of smaller activities like being fiscal conduits for smaller neighborhood organizations.
Which you've done for us.
Which we've done for you. And some of the other smaller groups that we represent that are basically neighborhood block watches. Those sort of the smaller end. On the larger end, some of the projects we have going on right now is the Hilltop Urban Farm concept as a creative reuse for the former St. Clair Village housing site. Working on finding a business district manager for East Warrington Avenue here in Allentown as a way to have someone whose job it solely is to market the neighborhood, get businesses up here. We got some good examples so far.
But what's the big but?
There's a lot more room to grow. There's a lot more space.
And there's some budgetary issues, perhaps, that we have yet resolved at the state level.
They're not quite yet resolved, but it looks like things are promising. So we'd like to thank our representatives and legislators for
and we were just talking to Henry
Absolutely.
about this. That it's so important that these neighborhood. What's the grant? It's the neighborhood revitalization.
The one specifically is the Neighborhood Partnership Program. It's
Yeah.
the one we won for this area.
But it affects so many areas. It's not just
Right.
like Allentown, it's McKees Rocks. It's these rural municipalities out, in the middle of the state. It's money that essentially funds people's salaries like yours and Aaron's, and to do work to like find resources and to have a plan to help economic development. And we, as the hardware store, know it's super important because it's just crucial for our survival is to have a thriving business district here on Warrington Avenue. I'm sorry, I was pontificating. I'll stop. I do that every podcast. Once a podcast, I say something in a very sort of authoritarian way and hope that people think that I'm an expert.
It sounds really good.
It does sound good.
Okay, so what if you could talk to a small business? Like, what would be the message that you would deliver to them? Like, how should they view you guys? Like, what should they do to kind of engage you?
I can take it if you want me to.
That's more you.
Yeah.
I like to tell people, dream big.
Yeah.
Dream, whatever you want to ask me. There's not a stupid question. We get people on every end of the spectrum in a business. We may not know the answer, but we at least know the 5 people to call to maybe get that answer.
Sure.
I like to say it's never too late, and it's never too early. So sort of looking through, there are so many free resources out there to businesses. CDCs and community development corporations, we sort of serve because it's great. It sort of helps our business district. It helps our overall communities. But I think for the people working in this field, we also see the value of small business development and understand the criticality of, getting Americans to work within the communities that they
Yeah,
serve. And,
absolutely.
you know, that's a huge sort of undertone of what we're doing. And especially out in this area in South Pittsburgh, South Hills, we don't really have a lot of large employers. 95% of our businesses are small businesses with less than 5 employees.
Yeah.
So it's a huge need to just bring some services to the table for the businesses.
Well, that's awesome, and we, you know, we see the work that the CDCs do and you guys do and the Hilltop Alliance does, and it's definitely made a huge difference in rolling out the hardware store. Like, we couldn't have done it without services from organizations just like you guys. And if we were going to make a suggestion to small businesses, it would be to reach out and to start forming these relationships, because you don't know what you don't know until you go and ask somebody about that sort of stuff. Cool. Well, thanks for jumping in, and we'll push this up to YouTube, and you guys will be able to link to it if you want. And obviously, it's just an opportunity to engage people generally in the Pittsburgh area. And, you know, we think that the South Hills is a little overlooked, and we think that places like Allentown and the Hilltop are logical geographic advantages, and people haven't realized them yet. And the sooner everybody commits to rebuilding these neighborhoods, the better off everybody's going to be. So thanks, guys. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.